Hello students, today we'll look at the second lesson from English for Engineers. The lesson name is Ancient Architecture in India. The lesson begins with the reference to Mauryan period. We see that architectural achievement happened during this period to a greater extent. It so happened because there was a material prosperity and also the religious consciousness that developed during this period, and which laid a reason for the development in all fields. So also in the field of architecture. It so happened that Megasthenes, the Greek ambassador to Seleucus Nicator, happened to visit Chandragupta Maurya's palace, which was carved out of wood. He was so awestruck by the palace that he described the palace as one of the greatest architectural achievement, an excellent architectural achievement. Uh, the architectural achievement did not stop with Chandragupta Maurya; it continued with Ashoka's reign as well. So we look at here that Mauryan art is actually influenced by Persian and Greek, right? Uh, During Ashoka's period, many monolithic stone pillars were erected on which the teachings of Dhamma were inscribed. Now, what is Dhamma? Dhamma is a word taken from Pali language, which means dharma in Sanskrit and also Hindi, which in turn means the right path in English. Uh, as taught by the Buddha, the enlightened one. You know, Ashoka was a great follower of Buddha, and hence uh, he inscribed the teachings of Dhamma on the monolithic pillars that were erected during his period. And the another feature of these pillars are the animal figures which adorn the top of these pillars, right? And each pillar was given a name. And so also there's one pillar which is called Sarnath pillar. You can just see here, which is adorned by the lion captain. Okay, and this has been accepted as the emblem of Indian Republic. Now, another feature of these pillars is that each pillar is weighed about 50 tons and also has 50 feet height. Coming to the next one, we talk about stupas, which were built during the Mauryan period, and the stupa of Sanchi and Sarnath are the famous among them. The Sanchi stupa we find in Raisen district of Madhya Pradesh, and Sarnath stupa is located in Varanasi, UP, that is Uttar Pradesh. So we also call Sarnath stupa as the mixed stupa. These stupas actually are dome-like constructions, and the unique features of these stupas actually, especially Sanchi stupa, is that it has this is let us just see this. This one is a Sarnath stupa, which is located northeast of Varanasi and near the confluence of the Ganges and the Varna rivers in Uttar Pradesh. Right? And then we have Sanchi stupa, which is located in Sanchi town, Raisen district of Madhya Pradesh. Right? So the unique feature of this Sanchi stupa is that the gateways of these stupas actually are depicted with uh, sculptures. You know, they have the sculptures depicting the stories from Jataka. That is, these Jataka stories actually are the stories of Buddha's previous lives, right? So when you happen to go to Sanchi, you can just visit this stupa and then you can look at uh, the stories depicted on these stupas, the gateways especially. Now coming to the next phase, it is all about the school of art. One is Gandhara art, which is a blend of Greek and Indian art. The next two are Mathura School of Art and Amaravati School of Art. which are indigenous. There is no blend of anything, any other art in this. They are purely Indian. And during the School of Art, the artisans actually built many Buddha statues, uh, especially during 1st century AD under the influence of Kushnas. When we talk about architectural achievements, there were patronages who actually encouraged building of these architectures. And one among them was Kushina. And it so happened that in Gandhara School of Art, lifelike statues of Buddha and Bodhisattva were built. As we're talking about Gandhara art, we again remind ourselves that it is a blend of Indian and Greek art. So, lifelike statues of Buddha and Bodhisattva were made in the likeness of Greek art, right? As we are talking about blend, we also talk about how it influenced the statues, right? So here, lifelike statues of Buddha and Bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are the followers of Buddhas, were made in the likeness of Greek gods, right? Though the ideas, expressions, and subjects were Indian. We should understand here that we're talking about blend of Greek and Indian art, where the sculptures are look alike like Greek gods, but the ideas, inspiration, and subject were all Indian. Now, what are the any unique features of these statues? Rich ornaments, costumes, and drapery were used to impart physical beauty to these statues. And the material used were the stone, the terracotta, cement-like material, and clay. So all these materials were used in order to make these statues. Now, the figures of Mathura school were made of spotted red stone. We are talking about one of the indigenous school of art, that is Mathura school of art, where figures were made of spotted red stone. Here, there is a difference now. Along with Buddha, we also find sculptures of Jaina deities, right? So in Mathura school of art, there's a bit difference. In Gandhara school of art, Buddha and Bodhisattva statues were made, which were made to look like Greek gods. But in Mathura School of Art, Buddha statues were made and also built, and also Jaina deities also were built. Now, coming to Amaravati School of Art, it was developed under the patronage of Shatabandhans. Okay, it's very important to remember the patronages, right? Who encouraged these kinds of architectures and which stand the testimony of the skills of artisans during those periods. A great stupa was built at Amravati in the lower Godavari region, and these the walls of these stupas were adorned with bas relief, which had a carved medallion and decorative panels. Now, Nagarjuna Kunda happens to be one of the Buddhist, one of the famous places for Buddhist architecture. So, till now we've seen the Buddhist architecture, which happened to form a major architectural source during these periods. Next comes the freestanding temple, which actually began with Gupta period. And here in during Gupta period, we happen to see that Deoghar, one of the freestanding temple was Deoghar, and the other one was Bhitargaon. Deoghar happens to locate in Jhansi district, and Bhitargaon happens to locate in Kanpur district. So the feature of these temples is like central shrine or Garbhagriha, as we say. Now comes the important phase in Indian architecture, that is the freestanding temples. We're talking about Gupta period, which marks the beginning of the construction of freestanding temples. One was at Deoghar and the other one is at Bhitargaon of Kanpur district. Here we talk about the important feature of these freestanding temples, that is central shrine or Garbhagriha, where the image of the deity is placed. Even before talking more about the freestanding temples, we'll first have a look at cave architecture and also the rock cut temples. Uh, the important phase of Indian architecture actually uh, is all about cave architecture. The development of cave architecture is another unique feature and marks the important phase in the history of Indian architecture. Here we talk about the caves which have been excavated by the archaeologists. There were more than 1,000 caves which have been excavated by the archaeologists. Now, famous among these are Ajanta and Ellora caves. I think most of you happen to visit these caves because they're so pleasant to watch. I think one should visit at least once in a lifetime. Uh, Here, in Ajanta and Ellora caves, we happen to see Buddhist viharas, shaitas, and mandapas. When we talk about Buddhist viharas, shaitas, and mandapas, these are the places where Buddhas, it's not that they Buddhas did not stay at one place. They wandered from one place to the other place, and they had to reside at some place, right? And they meditated. Okay, uh, they had their routine prayers. Okay, so these are the places where Buddhas resided. They prayed and they meditated. Okay, in viharas, shaitas, and mandapas. And also we happen to see in these caves the pillar temples of Hindu gods and goddesses. This was one of the important phases of Indian architecture. Uh, we talk about cave architectures. Next is rock cut temples. Okay, rock cut temples are the temples which have been hewn out of huge rocks. Okay, um, now when we talk about earliest rock cut temples, they were built in the western Deccan. Kailash temple at Ellora and the Ratha temple of Mahabalipuram built by Pallavas. Okay, so as we talk about cave architecture and rock cut temples, they are actually, uh, can be seen linked, right? Because we see Kailash temple at Ellora, right, which has been hewn out of the huge rock, which has been cut out of huge rock, and also Ratha temple of Mahabalipuram at built by Pallavas. See, simultaneously, we are also talking about the patronages of these architectural achievements. Okay, here we're talking about Rock Cut Temple, the Mahabalipuram Temple, Ratha Temple of Mahabalipuram by Pallavas, right? The rulers of Pallavas. Okay. Next, freestanding temples. Uh, as we said, the phase of freestanding temples began with Gupta period, right? And the building activity that began during the Gupta rule continued to flourish in the later period in southern India. So we should understand that this is the most important phase of Indian architecture, that most of the freestanding temples were built by various rulers, especially in southern India. Here we see that it began with Gupta period, but it flourished during other periods as well. The Pallavas, Cholas, Hoysalas, the rulers of Vijayanagara kingdom were great builders of the temples. Okay, and not only these, the other rulers like Ganga rulers, Eastern Ganga rulers, Solanki rulers, Chandera rulers, Somavanshi kings, etc. were also great patronages of these freestanding temples, right? Here we happen to see that uh, the temples were built in two different ways. One we see Dravida style and the other one is Nagara style. Okay, Dravida style of temples can be seen in southern India, where the features of these Dravida style temples is Vimana Shikhara, high walls and gateways topped by gopurams. These are the features of Dravida style, whereas Nagara style has Shikhara, Garbhagriha and the Mandapa, right? So when we talk about Dravida style, it's all about Southern Indian style, and when we talk about Nagara style, it's all about North Indian style of temples. Okay, so we see that Ganga rulers, Eastern Ganga rulers, Solanki rulers, Chandela, and Somanshi kings were gave great patronage of this temple building. Now, here are a few of the temples, built by various patronages. One is Mundeshwari Temple, Bihar, dedicated to Lord Shiva, built in 108 AD. Okay. It is considered to be a specimen of Nagara architectural style. So you can just see here, this is one temple, Mundeshwari Temple in Bihar, right? And Lord Khan Temple of Aihole, Karnataka. You can just see. Let's see what are the features of this. We said Dravidian style. Southern Indians temples are all in Dravidian style. Okay, built in 5th century, Lord Khan Temple was made by the kings of Chalukya dynasty. The style of architecture is Panchayatana. So it has 12 pillars and a central area consisting the shrine dedicated to Lord Shiva. There are many theories why the temple is named Lord Khan, from stories of prince to mendicant who lived there, right? So every temple has a story behind it, and also the patronages who actually encourage the temple building. Next, we have Mahabalipuram Temple in Tamil Nadu. So we already said the Ratha Temple. Okay, Ratha Temple in Mahabalipuram, which was hewn out of large stone. Okay, you can see mandapas, huge open air rock reliefs, and the Shiva temple, all dedicated to Lord Shiva. Not only this, the city itself was built way back in the 1st and 2nd century, and today it is classified as UNESCO World Heritage Site. This we already said is Sanchi Stupa, and we have Kailashnath Temple, Ellora. Okay, which was built during the 8th century by Pallavas. So we said it was hewn out of single rock, okay, which was carved out of single rock. Right, this is the one. Next, we have Tungnath Temple in Uttarakhand, which it stands at 3,680 meters. It is one of the highest Shiva temple in the world. And it was the Indian mythological heroes Pandavas who built the temple to venerate Lord Shiva and seek his pardon. Okay, so the story behind the building of this temple, right? So this is the Tungnath temple. Next we have Adikumbeshwar temple in Tamil Nadu. So all the majestic features. Next, Dilwara temples in Mount Abu, Rajasthan, which is dedicated to Jain Tirthankaras. This was built by Solanki rulers. Okay. This is the reference site that we have. You can visit this site and know more about the great Indian architecture. Here we come to the end of this lesson. Thank you so much.